I remember being in the lunch line one day. So as I got up there, she ripped open my envelope that I turned in every day empty. I just remember just kind of like blacking out. I call that my naked in the lunch line moment. I felt like everything was ripped away from me. My dad worked for a nonprofit. There were 5 kids in my family. That's why we were on the lunch line. Yeah, we lived at the poverty line. In that moment, I decided that I'm going to figure out a better way. So when I started the business, that was not an option to just say, oh, I'm going to walk away from this multiple 6-figure job that's taking care of my family with a newborn to start my dream. So I would work before work from about 5 to 7. And then I would get ready for work. I would go into the office. I would work from 8 to 5. I would come home. I would spend time with Billy and Madison, pump like 18 times in between, get her to bed, and then I would work.
Girl, when did you sleep?
Yeah.
As you stepped out to start to incorporate this, was there fear, apprehension? I might even go
terrified.
Yeah, I might even say spiritual warfare. Did you experience?
Yeah, I was terrified. I did not want to do it.
If you could give advice or write a letter to the old Kelly, what would you say? Hey there, welcome back. We are here for season 3, episode 1 of Broken to Build podcast. I'm so glad you're joining us this season. My name is Lauryn DeLoach. If you don't know me, I get to be your host. And I think we're all in for a big treat and a big learning experience here.
Happy to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you're here. So thank you for coming. Super pumped. Why don't you just kind of introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about you before we delve into your story?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I'm a wife and mom. I've been with my husband for 20 years, and I have an 11-year-old daughter. We homeschool her together. I feel like that's important. And I have been helping people build online companies for almost 12 years now. My first company has been on the Inc. 5000 list multiple times, fastest growing company in America, number 287. And we, as soon as we achieved that goal, we turned around and we helped multiple clients of ours also to achieve that goal. So I'm a business growth strategist. So what I love, the love of my life, is helping people to achieve their dreams. And my vision and the purpose for my work is to really help people see that they can put their faith and their families first and not sacrifice the most sacred parts of their life in pursuit of their goals and dreams. So my vision is to model that in how I live my life, how I run my home, how I, focus on my marriage and, my relationship with my daughter. And also I have a portfolio of 6 companies, large companies with big teams. And, it's just helping people see that all of these parts of life can work together in congruence and that we can make all of our dreams come true. But the most important part of making our dreams come true is the person that we become in the process and the relationships that we draw close to ourselves, our relationship with our creator, our spouses, our children, and the people that matter most in our lives. So just trying to help people really bring those things together.
I love that. And I love that you hit on the most important thing about the process, because I'm married. My husband is very like, it's the end. It's the end. I'm like, no, it's not. It's the process. And so I love that. So tell us about your story, your process of like becoming where you're at now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, the process for me probably started in middle school when I was on the free lunch program. Okay. And I remember being in the lunch line one day and holding my breath because I looked up ahead and I saw that there was a different volunteer collecting the envelopes for the lunch line that day. So as I got up there, she ripped open my envelope that I turned in every day empty. And I just remember just kind of like blacking out and being so vulnerable and upset. And I call that my naked in the lunch line moment. Like I felt like everything was ripped away from me. And that was really the moment that I discovered that I wanted to take control of my own life. And I never wanted to be put in that compromised, vulnerable position again. And that really kicked off a journey of a lifetime for me of figuring out how I could bring together making money and doing good. My parents were very Catholic people. My dad worked for a nonprofit. There were 5 kids in my family. That's why we were on the lunch line, because working for a nonprofit with 5 children, we lived at the poverty line. And so my mission in my life was to figure out, I know my dad made those choices because he wanted to do something great. He wanted to give back. He wanted to do work that glorified God. And in that moment, I decided that I'm going to figure out a better way.
Yeah.
And it started this multi-year journey. So, I got into college. I went to the school where I was going to have the least amount of loans. I got into my first real job. I was the first one in and the last one out for about 10 years. I was promoted 7 times in 8 years.
What were you doing?
Sales. I was building sales teams.
Okay.
I was leading and running branches, which each branch was basically operating as its own individual business, right? So all the things that come with recruiting, hiring, training, teaching, coaching people.
Okay.
Mostly on sales. And, got promoted 7 times in 8 years. I was running locations from White Plains, New York down to the Carolinas, managing about a $50 million book of business. And I just over time, I just had this growing feeling that I loved so much the work, but there was no soul in contributing to people's lives in a meaningful way with the work that I was doing. And so I said, there has to be a way, again, coming back to this question, how can I make money and do good? And so in 2012, I started my first company and I decided to focus on small business owners because we know that 85% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. Why do they fail? Because business owners have great ideas. They have big vision. They have no idea how to manage a P&L.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I decided to take everything that I had learned and say, how can I help more small business owners be successful, impact generational change, make their dreams come true, take care of their families, but do it on their own terms. And that kind of kicked off my entrepreneurial journey, and it was onward and upward from there.
And you didn't quit your job at this point.
No,
you did.
No. My husband and I, so we were together for a long time before we got married. We were married for a long time before we had my daughter. And one of the things that was really important to us that we decided actually when we were dating was that when we had children, they were not going to be in daycare. That was really, really important to both of us. And at the time, we were both working jobs.
Yeah.
Neither one of us knew who the person was going to be that was going to be home.
I will rock, paper, scissors, you.
Okay, yeah, it was kind of like that, but it was like, yeah, we're not doing that. Like when we have a family, we're going to raise our own family.
Yeah.
So it just so happened that at the time that we got married and I started my business and my business was just starting to take off and I, found out I was pregnant with Madison. And I knew this was like my purpose once I started doing it. And my husband was working a job and he was like, yeah, I'm cool to take the off ramp. So he exited, he retired from that. And he's been home full time, with Madison since she was born. And so for me, when I was working my job, I was the breadwinner for the family. So when I started the business, that was not an option to just say, oh, I'm going to walk away from this multiple 6-figure job that's taking care of my family with a newborn to start my dream.
Yes.
Right.
So did that put a lot of pressure on you to become we're dual income family and now it's all on me?
Yeah. I was making enough money financially for us to be comfortable.
Okay.
It was a lot of pressure working a 60-hour-a-week job and then building a business on the side of that and breastfeeding my daughter. Which, by the way, for any of our listeners that have breastfed, that's like a whole nother job.
It's okay, maybe some people love it. I thought it was the worst.
I loved it, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
Okay, this may be an overshare, but my boobs they were never the same again. I loved feeding my child, but I was this is just
yeah. Oh, it's a huge commitment. Yeah, that was 2 years of bringing the pump to the office every day and waking up before work. So I would work before work from about 5 to 7. And then I would get ready for work. I would go into the office. I would work from 8 to 5. I would come home. I would spend time with Billy and Madison, pump 18 times in between, get her to bed, and then I would work.
Girl, when did you sleep?
Yeah. There were years that it was less sleep than I would have liked. Yeah. Now in this life as a full-time entrepreneur, I am a psychopath about my sleep. I will not sleep less than 8 hours ever because I'm just not, I know my own self and I will not function at a high level.
Totally.
But there's a lot of years of sacrifice.
Wow. Okay. So you have a baby, a husband, a full-time job, a side business that is getting to a full-time job. When did the transition happen? When were you able to like step away from?
I didn't leave my job until my business was making more than my job, and I was making a lot of money in my job. And the reason why was because I came from being on the free lunch program.
Right?
I'm an extremely risk adverse person. I spent my whole life like building to this point of creating financial security, which by the way, we never have financial security. Our only security is God.
Yes.
But it made me feel better at the time.
Right. Totally. And I mean, aren't we all? Like,
Yeah.
I am still learning, like,
Yeah.
okay, God, you say, give us today our daily bread.
Yeah.
Like, it's not about how much is, like, I'm still in that process of like, God, it's about you. Like,
I trust
it's
you a lifetime.
Yeah. So you spent, how long did you say? 12 years?
In my job and building my business? Yeah, oh gosh. Over 5 years. Over 5 years.
Okay.
I was building over 5 years. Yeah.
Okay.
I built my business to 7 figures while I still had my job. And then when I left my job, I took my first company from 7 to 8 figures in 18 months. And then I started my other companies that I have today.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And does your husband play, like because you guys homeschool together,
Mm-hmm.
does he work in the businesses as well? No? Okay.
I don't want him to. I like our dynamic. We're best friends. Our dynamic of our relationship, to me, my most important thing that I want to protect is like when I'm at home, I'm like a wife and a mom.
Yes.
Right. And I want to be a wife and a mom, and I want to date my husband. And I want to feel like when we have time together, it's not a business meeting. And listen, there's a lot of people that work together.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
fantastic. Yeah. So I'm not giving like a sermon on what people should do with their family dynamic.
Yeah.
It's just for us, that would not be the dynamic that I dream of in my life.
Mhm.
I much prefer that when I'm with my husband, like we're just husband and wife.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Totally get that. My husband and I are the same way. We're best friends. We do not build IKEA furniture together.
Oh, yeah, that else. No. My husband can do that on his own. Yeah, that wouldn't. No.
We and actually, I normally end up doing it because my husband is the big vision, big dreamer.
Okay.
I'm the details.
Okay.
And he would just be like, "Oh, those screws, like we don't need those screws. Like it's fine." I'm like, "No, we do need those screws."
I love that.
So we just have agreed to go our separate ways. So I can't even imagine working in a business together all the time. Like it's just, So I totally agree. So what part has faith played as you've grown and built and become what your little, what is it, 7th grade? Was that when you?
It was middle school.
Middle
I don't know
school.
what year it was. It was probably 6th grade, I want to guess. I was trying to remember. I don't remember what year it was.
So as you've become where you started from middle school, Kelly, to now, like what part has faith played in your journey?
Yeah. And faith has played a huge part of my journey. Listen, when I was working for the Fortune 500, I would go to church before work in the morning. So faith has always been a huge part of my journey. I never shared it. I always kept it very private. Until a couple of years ago, I started like really sharing about it. And I'll tell you about that and why. And I know all of that. Yeah. For me, my faith has been like my guiding light and my hope and my anchor my entire life. And I'm very grateful and thankful to my parents for instilling that in me basically from birth.
Yeah. So tell me about the story about like.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think our generation was kind of raised in the generation of like, you don't talk, what is it? Religion, politics. Yeah.
Totally.
So, I did come from corporate and no one would ever talk about God or faith or anything. So I think when I started my business, I just kind of carried over that same like professionalism.
Yeah.
Like I teach business. Right. And so it just wasn't part of my brand. It was just always something that I was like, this is my personal life. This is my professional life. These two things don't mix. And then, so there's two different elements of this, and I'll kind of speak to them separately. After COVID, after the big, explosion and all the growth that people had, we came out of that. And I mean, so I'm in touch with thousands of entrepreneurs on a weekly basis. So I'm very in the trenches of like understanding the zeitgeist, right? Like I understand the conversation, the feelings that people are having, what's going on. And I just started seeing this pattern like over and over and over again. Like after everybody came down from like that big growth that they had, because there was so much cash injected, there were so many different, ways that people were, experiencing that. I just saw a lot of despair and a lot of just hopelessness. And pain and frustration amongst entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurial community. And I kept asking myself, like, why? Why are they struggling so much? Like, what is it? Like, what's missing? And then you saw the divorce rate skyrocketed after COVID, like all of these things. And I realized it was faith. It was the fact that our society has pushed faith to the outskirts like so much that like average people in the secular world, they don't, like, for me, it's so innate that my whole life I was always so reliant on my faith that was like naturally the anchor that I would always go back to. And I never realized, because that was so innately a part of who I was, that the average person actually didn't have that. And I started realizing, here I am, like I'm teaching business and I'm teaching mindset and I'm trying to help people make their dreams come true. And what I realize is that the average person is not equipped with the core tool that they need. Like, I can teach the strategy all day long. I can show you how to build a $10 million business. I help people do it over and over again. But if you don't have the faith and the hope and the God-inspired resilience, it doesn't matter if I give you the strategy. It doesn't matter if I give you the tactic. I can show you exactly what to do. And so I started having this realization that the average person actually didn't have that anchor. And that if I didn't start talking about it, it was actually disingenuous, because I was teaching people how to achieve 7 and 8 figures in their business. But I realized that if I was only teaching like the strategy and the tactic on how to do that, but I wasn't acknowledging that the faith is the underlying anchor and support system that will make all of this happen, that even if I give them the tactic and the strategy, it's probably not going to happen.
It's like building without the foundation.
So I made a very sharp turn in my business, and I started talking about faith like every day in every single thing that I was doing in every single way, from the standpoint of really trying to help entrepreneurs understand that when you compromise, I call it like sacrificing the sacred. Like sacrificing the sacred to me is like there's only a couple glass balls in our life. That's our mental and physical health. That's our relationship with God. That's our family and our relationship with our children, right? There's only a few things. When we sacrifice the sacred, success is not success at all. So I started really like committing myself very uncomfortably, by the way, because I'm an introvert and I'm extremely private.
You're an introvert?
People don't believe me. They don't understand, because I love to teach. Put me on a stage, put me in it, because to me that's service. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
But I like to be a very private person.
Okay.
I'm only on social media because it's my business, right?
Yeah.
So that happened. And then also I went through a lot of struggles and challenges. I got sued by a company with the word entrepreneur in it. Maybe you've heard of them for using the word entrepreneur. And it was an over 2-year legal battle. It was the worst experience of my life. I almost lost everything. They were threatening me and my clients. I lost so much. And the thing that I realized going through that, and it was to the point where like it was impacting my health.
Yes.
I was sleeping. I was like losing hair. I had dark circles under my eyes. I was gaining weight. Like it affected every single part of my life.
Yeah.
And coming through that, once I got to the other side of it and I like came back up and I like reclaimed myself, like once that was over, I was like, well, what is it? Like, what got me through that? Like, how am I even better and stronger today than I was before any of that happened? And I was like, it was my faith. It was my faith. It wasn't my business growth strategy. It wasn't my skill set. It wasn't my experience. It wasn't any of those things. It was my faith. And so that was yet another realization that I cannot, in good conscience, be saying, I'm going to teach you how to build this wildly successful business and not acknowledge that if you don't have the faith to endure the things that you're going to go through on this journey, it doesn't matter how great the strategy is that I teach you.
Yeah.
Right.
So good.
Yeah.
So as you stepped out to start to incorporate this, was there fear, apprehension? I might even go
terrified.
Yeah. I might even say spiritual warfare. Did you experience?
I was terrified. I did not want to do it. Like, I was so scared. And I don't say that lightly because I'm not really a person that's like, I have a very strong mindset.
Yeah.
So like things don't really scare me. I was really scared. And I didn't want to do it. But I was like at a place in my life where I was like, my answer is yes, God. My answer is yes. And I keep just saying that over and over again. Like, my answer is yes. My answer is yes. Like, where are you calling me? What are you asking me to do? And I really am a person that believes that the highest reward is contribution. And so I realized that if I truly believe that, the embodiment of that is sharing even things that feel like uncomfortable.
Yes.
Unsafe. I felt unsafe doing it. And it wasn't because anyone like threatened me or like anyone did anything to me to make me feel that way. I think it just felt very like vulnerable, and I felt exposed again, which is like going back to the lunch line. That's what I felt doing that. But the response has been amazing. You know, I think that people were finally like really ready to hear that, because I think they realize that they can't outwork some things. Some things you can't outwork. Like, some things are just between you and God. And you have to allow for divine intervention and the unfolding of whatever God has for you.
Yeah.
You know?
And I love even the timing in it, because you said after COVID, when people get to the point of desperation of like, they were ready to receive it, probably, you know?
Yeah. And if that hadn't happened, I don't think a lot of people would.
Right.
Because they were just riding the wave of success. And, you know, that's the most dangerous time that we forget that we need God. Right. And so I think it brought people to a place where they recognized that the things in this world weren't going to get them through, and they needed to be open to something else. Yeah.
So the first time you shared about faith on a business call, was it like a little bit like, I'm just going to throw out the word, and then have you seen yourself get more bold in the process?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I think I've built my confidence around it a lot, and I've just accepted that it's not going to be for everyone, but my goal and my perspective, I think there's a lot of people that their experience of God has actually been human beings that were like not great.
Falsy?
Yeah. Faulty. Flawed. Yeah. Yeah. So I think there is millions of people that have lived their entire adult life in avoidance of God, confusing God with a person whose behavior they didn't like.
Yes.
And that's the danger of, you know, when we look at religion and church and spirituality and, you know, all of these things, like, we have to remember that people are people.
Yes.
Like, we're all humans. We all make mistakes. Yes. Like, you can't put anyone on a pedestal. Like, and I say to people all the time, like, your relationship is between you and God. And I go to church and I'm a believer and I'm a Christian person. But I don't think my job is to tell people what their path to God needs to be. I think it's to say you need to dig deep and you need to open yourself up to what that relationship between you and God can be and is designed to be, and start there.
Yes.
Start there with that direct connection, and then, you know, grow forward.
And God can lead you so much better than either one of us could lead you.
Exactly.
So I guess my other question is, we talked about the spiritual side and then the financial, like business smarts, business savvy.
Yeah.
What role do you think emotional health plays in people's ability to be success when coupled with strategy and spiritual health?
Oh, it's everything. I mean, I this is what I say, right? Mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional health, like, that's the foundation of everything. And I think that we all, if we want to lead others, have a responsibility to lead ourselves. And that means taking care of ourselves. I talk a lot in my brand about like exercise and fitness and wellness and, you know, all of these things. And I take dance classes and I work out with a trainer and, you know, all this, because that's a huge part of our responsibility, is caring for ourselves, you know. And I see a lot of people struggling with their mental health, and obviously their businesses aren't doing well.
Right.
You're not going to have a healthy, your business is just an extension of you. So if you're unwell,
yes,
the business is not going to be healthy and booming if the source is not, right?
Yes. So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
With the things that you've been through in your life, with
Mm-hmm.
building businesses, with the lawsuit, with motherhood, with all of those things, do you have like a couple big takeaways that you are like, that you learned through all of those times of being broken?
I don't think it's things that I learned through being broken, but I think it's things that I experienced to be true over and over again, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that is that God had a plan for each of us before we were born, and that we were all given really specific gifts to be utilized to be of service to other people. And everything that we experience in our lives in one way or another is molding us, maturing us, or preparing us to be able to fulfill in the potential that God instilled in us before we were born. And I think that every experience that we have in our lives, even the very, very, very bad experiences that we have, it's not like look for a silver lining in something terrible that happened for you and try and make it a positive thing.
Yeah.
But the byproduct of the terrible things that happen in our lives is that it always leads us back to ourselves in our original form to help us grow into what God envisioned for our lives.
Yep.
So I think that's number one. I think number two is that God's plan for us is great and magnificent and far better than anything we can ever come up with. And so I think that a lot of people, especially believers or Christian people or whatever, have like a complex about building wealth. They have a complex subconsciously about building their business because they think that they shouldn't have money, or they think that it's greedy or selfish, or, whatever the case, because there's so much misuse of biblical phrases around money, which actually, if you actually study and understand, that's not what the Bible is saying. Like,
Yes.
building wealth actually is biblical with the right mindset, with the right heart, intention, and use of those funds. So, I think that whatever dream you have, God's vision for you is always bigger, better, and more magnificent than anything you could ever come up with. And so you don't need to feel like you're greedy or selfish if you have big goals and dreams.
Yeah.
And I think the third big thing is that building wealth and achieving at a high level is not in conflict with growing in your faith and being a leader at home and the other things in life that matter. But you have to have the discipline, and you have to be thoughtful and intentional about how you create life design. And I don't think there's enough conversation about that.
Yeah, so good.
You have to be very intentional about the design of your life. Like for me, the life that I live today, Billy and I designed that life 20 years ago. We've been working for 2 decades to make our life exactly what it is today. It's thousands of decisions and thousands of sacrifices on his part and on mine. And I think it's just being intentional about what you want and knowing that you can have it all, but you have to be disciplined. And I think that in our society and culture, when people think of freedom and success, they think that that's in conflict with being disciplined and sacrifice. And actually, it's discipline and sacrifice that creates freedom and success.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love everything that you just said. My husband and I talk about that stuff all the time. So that leads me to all the things that you talked about, like biblical wealth and purpose in it and all of those things. Did middle school Kelly have to rewire your thinking to get to that point? Or because of the way that you were raised, was there a rewiring, or was there always an intrinsic, like,
it was me learning that I can love my parents without wanting to emulate their lives, that I can respect my parents without agreeing with beliefs that they were passing on to me. And that middle school girl, Kelly, decided in that moment that I didn't agree with my father's belief that making money and doing good were in conflict.
Yes.
And so my life has been a journey of pursuing not just how I could do that for myself, which I have successfully done that for myself. I'm very proud that we've been able to build wells around the world. We fund wells. When we have a good month in the business, we donate to charity water. When we have a bad month in the business, we donate to charity water. So I live in accordance with that belief that we can make money and do good. And I want to help millions of other people to do the same. And so I would say yes, rewiring, and yes, also having to really decide that you can love someone very, very much, which I love both of my parents very, very much. And you cannot want to emulate or replicate decisions that they made. And you can respect someone without making the same choices that they do or without taking on their beliefs.
Yeah, so good. So with everything that you've been through with your story, with all the ups and downs, if you could give advice or write a letter to the old Kelly, what would you say?
Well, I would say you don't have to rush.
So good.
That's the first thing I would say is you don't have to rush. And the second thing I would say is that all of your dreams will come true and to trust yourself. And that's it. That's it. I think that God instills in us capability beyond measure, and it far exceeds whatever we can come up with on our own. And so I would just say, enjoy the ride. Don't be in a rush. Trust, believe, do the work.
Has your life turned out better than what old Kelly could have imagined?
1,000%. And I would do it all over again, including the loss.
Yeah.
I would do it all over again because I wouldn't be the person that I am. That's what I'm saying. When awful things happen to us, it's not that we have to have a fake optimism and say, oh, that wasn't as bad as it was. No, it was hell.
Yes.
It was absolute hell. But I would do it all over again because it made me the Kelly I am today. It gave me so much more strength and conviction and power and belief in myself. And also it made me the leader that I am to be so committed to instilling faith and leading other entrepreneurs down the path of pursuing their relationship with God. And it absolutely, I would do it all over again. And absolutely, it turned out way better than I ever could have imagined.
Cool. I love that. That's so hope-filled for people, which I love.
Yeah.
The heart behind Broken to Build has always been authenticity. And as I've gotten farther into this, you see people that try to have it all together, but that are really falling apart inside, whether that is in the church, in the business world, on social media. We all see the pretty picture and we don't see the thing behind the thing. Yeah. So what would you say to that person that right now is doing their best to keep it all together on the outside, but maybe needs a little encouragement?
Yeah. Well, I mean, all of us are doing the best we can.
Yeah.
And need a little bit of encouragement. And that
what would you say to me? What would you say to yourselves?
That encouragement comes from spending time with God. And our problem is that our world has taught us to look to other people
So good.
to get those answers that we can only get in our relationship with God. So what I would say is, and this is another beautiful thing that came out of every hard thing that I've ever been through, is spending every morning listening to the Bible, spending every morning listening to worship music, spending every morning with God before I start work. I, for so many years, was the person that I would open my eyes at 5 a.m. By 5:01, I was working.
Yep.
And I don't do that anymore. And, I think that we fall apart when we're looking to people for help that can't help us. And that strength and that ultimate source of wisdom and peace and validation, that comes through our relationship with God. And that comes through spending time in relationship with God. And I think that you have to become extremely self-led. And I've been talking about this so much because I think that everyone, especially with the internet now, everyone's a guru. And everyone is looking to outsource their own power and abdicate their power to someone else that they think is ahead of them, that they think can tell them what to do and how to do it. And the person that you're turning to most likely doesn't have the answers either. And so I think it all comes down to, where do you turn when you're in trouble? And that's where conviction is extremely important. You have to have conviction about something, and you have to have a belief system. And a lot of us have beliefs that were passed on to us that aren't necessarily true for us. And so you have to take the time to take a step back and say, what do I actually believe? And what are going to be the anchors of my life? And hopefully the first and most important one is your relationship with God.
Yeah. So taking your own advice, this is my last question. Taking your own advice and you're like, I start the day with God, like worship, prayer, Bible.
Yeah.
Have you seen, instead of starting the day with working, like have you seen your business grow in ways that it wasn't growing previously when you did not start your day with God?
Absolutely. And the specific tangible outcome of that is an increase in faith creates an increase in capacity. And
Say it again.
Increase in faith
Yep.
creates an increase in capacity.
So good.
So people are always looking at me and they're like, how are you doing what you're doing? Like, I do a lot.
Yeah.
I do a lot. I do a lot.
Mhm.
And faith increases capacity because the amount of stress that you can manage without dropping down emotionally, but instead staying in solution. When you have faith and you have certainty that comes from hope and connection to God, that's a different kind of peace. That doesn't mean that you don't feel the pain of the problems in your life.
Yeah.
I feel the pain of the problems in my life. Again, not false optimism. That's not what we're talking about here. It's the capacity to mentally handle more and to be able to both feel the pain and sustain the peace because you know that God's got your back all the time.
So good. Yeah. So good. I have enjoyed this so much. Thank you so much for being here. This was awesome. Yes. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I am so pumped. We have such an exciting season for you. Make sure you tune in every week. More guests, more conversations, and we will see you next week.